Oh, sorry. Welcome, everyone, to the second town hall of the year. The first one was in Evergreen a month ago. And we have a few housekeeping things that Megan Heiler Wilson, our fabulous public information officer, will alert you to.
All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. This is for all of you in the room and for people that are watching online on Facebook. I do just want to bring to everybody's attention that we did go into stage 2 fire restrictions here in Clear Creek County today. So if you want to see what those restrictions are and what you can and cannot do, head to our website. It's literally at the very top. You can click it there, or it's on all of our social medias and you can read the full fire ban. Also, I do want to say this to the people that are watching online on Facebook. If you are watching on Facebook and you would like to participate, please join the Zoom. The link is in this post. Join the Zoom and raise your hand and I can make you a panelist and you can participate. We want everybody to participate who wants to and as many people as possible. So please join the Zoom, click that link so we can hear your voice. And last thing, our next town hall after today is in Dumont on July 13th. That's at the Dumont Fire Station, which is 681 County Road 308. And that's, like I said, on July 13th at 6. So that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you again for coming, everyone. I'd like to introduce my colleague Jody Hartman Ball, who will give a quick overview of what she's been working on and wants to talk to you about. And then we'll turn to George Marlin for his presentation, and I'll wrap it up. If they say everything I need to say, then I won't say anything, and then open it up for questions. So Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody. I am the commissioner for District 3, which is the West End. It's from pretty much St. Mary's all the way to the Divide. The things that I work on are childcare. I've been in a working group since I've been elected, and this now includes Gilpin County. They have their child care facility up and running. And so we're kind of comparing what's working over there, what's not, what do we need for better funding over here? Once we get open, what's that going to look like? Right now, the lodging tax is at 2%, and we split that up with the tourism board, with the child care group, and the housing authority. So the child care part of it, because that's the part I'm going to talk about, it goes to scholarships. And people can apply their summer programs, and then there are scholarships for childcare, and this is for infant care through the school year. And right now is the summer care. We had a little bit left over from last year that carried over that was to help. So it's $30 if you qualify. And I'm not sure if they're taking more. We had 18 participants in that right now. And then the other part just ended. And the reason why I want to bring this up is the lodging tax. We're talking about making this up to 6%. We've asked staff to bring us some ballot language to see what that looks like and how we can help our community. We've got budget shortfalls. I think George is going to talk about that. Rebecca's on the housing authority, so we kind of split this up. But childcare is a very essential thing that we need in this community. We're losing families. When we're losing families, the pool's struggling, that's our workforce. People on the East End, sometimes they're like, why should we pay for this childcare? If you like the gas stations to be open, if you like Taco Bell to be open, if you need this workforce we're a very tourism-based community, that's where this money is going. It's to help these families. So I would like to continue this. If we are to raise this up to 6%. We would like to allocate more of that money to childcare, maybe even double it. So I know we have the tourism board here. We want to continue to, support them and give them what they need. And then Rebecca will talk about the housing authority. And then let's see, the second part I want to talk about, I'm also on NOCO, which is working on trail management. And trail management, I know back in the day, I'm a Clear Creek, graduate here, and people were anti-development. Like, we don't want new stuff here. We don't want any building. We don't want more housing because it's going to ruin everything. And then what we realized is the change is coming. And do we want to be part of those decisions where we steer this? And I think we've decided yes. And so With NOCO Places, we're going to be closing down some trails, and it's not like we're going to go up and just, randomly close down trails that people are using. We're closing down trails because maybe wildlife, maybe there's braiding going on. If you don't know what braiding is, there's one main trail going up, and then sometimes people decide, I don't want to walk that whole trail. We're just going to come down part of it. And then a second person will do that. And next thing you know, there's 5 trails coming off of what should be one trail. And then management is also deciding maybe there's endangered species there, or maybe it's a sheep wildlife habitat that is breeding grounds. We see that with the bike park in Idaho Springs, we have to shut down. So we work with CW, we work with the National Forest, we work with Denver Parks. That's part of Mount Blue Sky. I should probably also mention Mount Blue Sky. If you want to go up to Mount Blue Sky, we have 6 passes at the library, and you can check those out just like a book, and you can go up there for free. Because Denver Parks is separate than the National Forest. So access passes no longer work for that. If you want to reserve a spot, you'd have to pay, but local Clear Creek residents can check out a pass and go up there for free. So I think that's it for me. Oh, and Charlie's Place. I did want to discuss Charlie's Place. It has been a very heated topic, and I don't think we meant for people to get scared or to think we're closing down Charlie's Place. That was not the intent of the working group. The working group was to get together with other stakeholders and come up with solutions so that Charlie's Place can be more sustainable. As commissioners change, our philosophy is going to be different than maybe a different board. And I don't think we want to have Charlie's Place be threatened because there's not the funding. As everybody knows, our budget is very tight, and we're looking at all different areas, what we can cut, what we can save on, or maybe for like Charlie's Place, if we could have that sustain on its own. It does have a nonprofit that has access to grants and all kinds of different things. So that's the whole purpose of this working group. Any board decisions, any board meetings, any meetings that we have with Gilpin County, those will remain public meetings, and you will see those. I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of people thought we were doing secret meetings. Nobody's doing secret meetings. We are just literally gathering people to get ideas so we can bring them to the board and, hash these things out. So the best interest for Charlie's Place is we all care about it. It's a part of our community, and we'll see what we can do to save it.
Thank you, Jody. And I forgot to introduce Colton Roloff, our stellar county manager who tries to keep us on budget and on task and does a good job of it. Thank you.
Thanks.
George.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So George Marlin, District 1, that's the center of the county, part of Floyd Hill, Idaho Springs, York Gulch, maybe some of St. Mary's. I've been assigned to economic development, where I serve on the Clear Creek Economic Development Corporation board. Behavioral health, I serve on the board of the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. That is the 3-county mental health organization that takes safety net money and provides it to folks that are on Medicaid, SNAP, that kind of stuff. Very important organization in the county. I do a lot of legislative advocacy, spend a lot of time with counties and commissioners acting together. Colorado Counties Incorporated and Colorado Communities for Climate Action. The primary goal in our legislative advocacy is arguing for better tax proposal authority. What you all talk about on a regular basis when we talk about our financial challenges is ideas that are obvious and simple, like, hey, what if raft trips had more than a 0% tax rate? That's a conversation that's actually illegal for you to have. It's not illegal for you to have it, but it's not something that you can legally do. And so I spent my whole time in office arguing for that. And so legislative advocacy. I've also been assigned to fire and have built a portfolio around forest health and regional wildfire mitigation conversations. I was appointed to the Clear Creek Fire Authority Board when I came into office. I've served there for the last 7.5 years. I serve on the steering committee of an organization called, I wrote the wrong one. It's not NOCO Places. It's the NOCO Fire Shed. This is a collaboration among all the local governments and fire departments in the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forest, fire departments and mitigation entities, watershed groups. I serve as the chair of the Clear Creek Watershed Forest Health Partnership. This one looks more to building relationships into the metro area, where they rely on us, and I'll talk about this more in a little bit, to protect their water source. And have been invited to serve on the board of Coalitions and Collaboratives. This is an organization that just helps provide bandwidth for these kinds of collaboratives that I just mentioned. That's a new portfolio that is a Clear Creek County Commissioner to carry around making sure we have a voice in these organizations and these regional conversations about wildfire mitigation. And I'm going to talk about fire mitigation and fire safety in just a moment. I want to talk about the budget first. If you attended our town halls last year, you know that we spent a lot of time last year talking about Clear Creek County's budget challenges. You all probably know, because you've heard us talk about it a lot, that we have lost a third of our revenues over the last 10 years. This is not just true for Clear Creek County. This is true for our school district, our library district, our recreation district. The numbers are a little different depending on whether you also collect sales tax. But we had a single large employer dramatically reduce their business, causing an acute loss of revenues. So last year we had a lot of town halls and and this was really the primary focus. If you are really interested in a deep dive in our budget, I encourage you to go back and look at those. It's a comprehensive approach to explaining our $6 to $7 million a year structural deficit. We've spent the last 7 years or so since we found out that the mine would be producing less, largely pursuing efficiencies within this government. And you've seen us do a lot in that space. You've seen us find a lot of savings. We had been the kind of government that had the money to be able to solve interpersonal problems with money. We're not that government anymore. We solve our interpersonal problems with dialogue so that we can spend our money on you all. Currently, we passed a budget with a $1.4 million deficit. The structural deficit is much larger because of what we're not investing in. There's very, very little capital in that deficit. We're understaffed in a lot of our departments where really to provide a level of service that you all expect, we should have more staff. One of the things I hear about most often is one of the first decisions that was made, which was, we're not going to have a person assigned to picking up the phone when you call anymore. You get into a phone tree and that system does its best to connect you to who you need to talk to. But I know you all used to enjoy a higher level of service in some of those areas. The good news is that our fund balance is healthy. Previous boards put a lot of money into our fund balance so that this is not an emergency. We have roughly $15 million in unrestricted reserves, meaning that we can spend years. We have years to solve this problem. But we do have to solve this problem, and it does involve real conversations about 3 variables: what we want to see built in terms of economic development, what kind of services we want to get, and what kind of services we want to keep, and what services we don't have that we need, and what kind of tax rate we want. We did, and we want to thank voters. Last year, we proposed a ballot measure for the unincorporated portion of the Clear Creek Fire Authority District. That passed, and that helps shore up our fire department and our EMS services. Their budgets are not all the way in the black yet, but it brought them from a crisis to, similar to we are, a problem they can solve over time. So that's what's going on with the budget. Love to answer questions about the budget privately or right here. I want to get back to fire safety because there's both a lot going on and a lot of interest. This county government traditionally has not focused a lot on fire mitigation and fire safety. Its fire departments have not. Evergreen Fire Rescue, earlier than Clear Creek Fire Authority, really started to invest in past ballot measures. Clear Creek Fire Authority does now have a mitigation crew. That's new as of 4 or 5 years ago. They're helping neighborhoods mostly understand how to take care of their own properties. Just last year, we completed an update of what's called a community wildfire protection plan. You have to have one of these plans in order to be eligible for grants. So we got that done, and we're really happy with the plan. It identifies projects. It's called the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. You can Google that or reach out to me later. We are working with the Forest Service. The Forest Service has a new district ranger. His name is Max Fergensi. In spite of everything you hear about the Forest Service and their reduced capacity, and all of that's true, we have a district ranger that really cares about getting projects on the ground here in Clear Creek. And he's working on a project in Beaver Brook, which is between Floyd Hill and Witter Gulch, more or less. That project will take care of a significant risk area, try to help make sure fires that start here don't end up in Evergreen, and protect some significant water resources. That's a federally funded project. We did send a letter of support saying we think you should do this. Locally, what we're focusing on is we hope to see the Community Wildfire Defense Grant open up. This could allow us to apply for a lot of money. The grant is up to $10 million for wildfire mitigation projects. And we're working on trying to, the wildfire, when I say $10 million worth of projects, it's a little bit of a drop in the bucket relative to the scale of the work that needs to be done just within Clear Creek. Like it's the scale of the resources that we need to really achieve fire safety and forest health is astonishing. And that's why this is a regional conversation. This is not a conversation that Clear Creek County's taxpayers can afford to solve on their own. And so we've spent years working on what's called a forest improvement district. And we are finally starting to have some national organizations really say, yep, we think what's going on in the Clear Creek watershed is the highest stakes challenge that exists in Colorado. And here's the challenge. We have 1 million water users in the metro area. We have some of the highest concentrations of values at risk over in Evergreen. And we have a population of 9,000 people in Clear Creek County and 5,000 people in Gilpin County that are responsible for protecting that watershed. So we have some national organizations bringing in facilitators to help us try to do a better job getting attention of all those metro area local governments so that we can propose a sales tax that includes that huge tax base. And instead of what it would take in sales taxes for just us to do the work, a much lower rate can get a lot more work done. So I'm excited about that. And the fire safety conversation is one that federal government's way behind on, Colorado's way behind on. Local governments across Colorado are way behind on. It's not a pretty picture. It's something that we have to take seriously and work hard on. And I just can't emphasize enough how important it is for folks to focus on their property, their lives, their go bags, etc. Rebecca, you asked me not to talk too long. How'd I do?
You did great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lloyd. I'm the current chair of the Clear Creek Board of County Commissioners. And I appreciate what my colleagues have said, and so I can shorten mine. One point about the budget is this past year has been particularly rough, decrease in visitors due to our bad snow season, increase in gas prices, and general inflation overall. And of course, a decrease in visitors means a decrease in county tax receipts. So we're working to deal with that. We are trying to shrink our expenditures by consolidating offices and selling buildings that are no longer needed. We thank you for your comments on Charlie's Place. I just have 2 cents on that. I appreciate Charlie's Place. I've adopted 2 dogs from there, including our current one, and definitely we're looking for solutions. I am on the Clear Creek Regional Housing Board, and that is tasked, it's a voter-approved initiative to fund more housing for people who currently live in Clear Creek or work in Clear Creek. So if they work here and they get housing here, then they become residents as well. We have some good news. We got a Department of Local Affairs grant to help with affordable housing in one of the developments in Georgetown. And we also have a new director, Erica Duvik, who is just a go-getter and really a joy to work with. I also serve on the Denver Regional Council of Governments. Its acronym is Dr. COG. And the reason why we're in the Denver Regional Council of Governments is that they focus a lot on transportation. And of course, I-70 has a lot to do with us and with Denver. So this year we worked really hard to be able to get into their Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the vehicle that you use to get money to fund transportation issues. So one of my pet peeves is when I was campaigning, I spoke to a lot of people in the Dumont, Lawson, Downeyville area, very concerned about, you know, after I-70 split our county in half, they built a bridge with no sidewalks. So we have a bridge from, you know, the south side to the north side in Dumont, where we have people on the south side that would like to walk across the bridge to the post office and get their mail, but it's not safe. Some of them have walkers, they don't have cars. And then another lovely woman mentioned that she liked to ride her horse across it to go to the post office. And it's that's one of the bridges I'd really like to fix. And the other also in Dumont, Lawson, Downeyville is this crazy 5-way interchange near the Way Station and the Sinclair Breeze Ski Rental. We had the transportation director from Dr. Cog give us a presentation. And I said, and this was when this building was closed because of the flooding we had. And so we were meeting in the Dumont Fire Station. And I had him go back to Denver by going west through that crazy intersection to get back on I-70 and go down to Denver. When I saw him next, he was appalled. He said, "That's crazy. Yes, we need to work on this." So I am hoping that now that we're in the MPO, we will be able to get more funding and address some of those issues. I know that George covered wildfire mitigation. I just wanted to mention one thing. We did an evacuation drill involving, okay, so I represent the east side, so it was thinking of a fire starting in Beaver Brook and going up 103 toward Witter Gulch. And so we had the Evergreen Fire Rescue, Clear Creek Fire Authority, both sheriff's departments, EMS, and the Office of Emergency Management participating. We had 1,300 people sign up to do it. I personally clicked in about 179 cars at my little station, and it was so successful, you know, both for people knowing what they have to pack up if they are suddenly asked to evacuate, and also for the safety professionals to know how to handle the volume, where the bottlenecks can occur. And we kind of artificially inflated the bottlenecks by having checkpoints where people have to sign in, say when they left their home and how long it took them to get there to accommodate the additional numbers of people that would actually evacuate. But it was good. It was helpful. So those are the main issues I've been working on, and we would really like to hear from you. I know people have come with questions and concerns, and if you would, according to Megan, if you stand up and speak toward one of the microphones, it will pick you up. And she also gets a text of what everybody says. And if she can't read it, then she'll ask you to come closer or talk more loudly.
These
So-
microphones are very sensitive.
Yes. So Natalie, did you come to say anything? No. Yeah. Okay. Lisa, did you want to say anything?
I did actually.
Okay.
I need to stand up.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And we can hear you, so you're good to go.
Lisa Manifold, I sit on Idaho Springs City Council, and one of the questions that I've heard from a lot of my constituents is, what are your plans to move forward with the roundabout? We have a lot of constituents.
Do you know the answer, George, or should we direct it to Colton?
I mean, I can share what I know. The roundabout was identified by staff as a non-statutorily required service 4 or 5 years ago. At that time, staff was recommending we eliminate the program. Commissioner Wheelock and I said we prefer to continue to fund it. We gave it a couple of years of guaranteed funding. My sense, I think we also said that they needed to find some more grant money. They found some more grant money. I think about 80% of that program is grant funded. It is one of those programs that this is not my opinion. I won't be in office. I don't know if they'll be in office for it. It is one of those programs that if we don't find either the revenues or the economic development to sustain our budget, may not exist moving forward. It's a really important program. I manage the Georgetown market. My staff used it. And we have had conversations, numerous conversations over the years. A big part of how the roundabout system will be sustained is investment from the municipalities. I appreciate you mentioning how much the city of Idaho Springs benefits from it. City of Idaho Springs is one of 4 jurisdictions that benefits a lot from that program. And I think it's appropriate for you all to be planning on how you're going to help sustain that service over the long term.
I just wanted to add too, it's just like the childcare, that's part of the workforce. In the DLD area, 15% of the people do not drive. And that is a stat. That's not like our opinion. That is a stat. They rely on services like the bus. We are also a big part of the workforce for the communities in Idaho Springs and Georgetown. So, it's another one of those tough ones that I know people are worried about. And I know I get emails of people that say, why don't you just cut the thing? I don't use it. And, we try to explain how important it is as a community to have these extra services. And I think instead of just cutting them, we're just trying to figure out how we can come up with a budget that can, support this stuff.
Thank you.
A huge part of the role of local government, and I know you know this, Lisa, is making our economy work, between helping workers get to their jobs, find childcare while they're at work, have homes. These are some of the most important services that we provide. That we don't have a history of providing them here, but it's really, really important perspective for our people and for our economy that they be protected.
Right. And the other thing is that it's not like people can go live in Summit County or go live in Jefferson County, because those places are even more expensive with even less housing than we have. So to be able to keep our economy working, we need our workers. We need to have, as Jody and George both said, housing, childcare, the roundabout. So anyway, that was why it's important. Who else has a question? Mojo.
Hello. Oh, sit down, sit down, sit down. Lay down. Stay. Hello, if I could approach right quick.
Sure.
Drop this off. I know you have my
I
contact
do.
information.
Thank
but
you.
Anyway, the official way of doing that.
Thanks, Mojo.
Thank you.
All
Ooh,
the
sorry.
time.
There you go.
So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mojo Lucas, Joe Lucas, legal name. I live here in Georgetown. 50 years ago, I moved to Clear Creek County. I was 14 years old, and this was the fifth place I got to call home. In 1979, I joined the military 6 months before my graduation as an Eagle Scout Order of the Arrow, and went on my new journey of serving our country. I came back to Clear Creek County in 2017. And in 2018 is when we defended our quality of life here in Clear Creek County with the Douglas Mountain gravel pit. And
Yes, please.
what's that?
So please address us.
Oh, sure. And what I think, what I'd like to recognize is I returned home as a disabled veteran with a brain injury. And I've reached out to other services than that when I first came in 2016. But I'll leave that as a separate conversation. My focus is with the environmental issues that we have right now with open space parks. So I'll take this vest off because that's the awareness part of the presentation. Please be aware the current situation with the funding for open space is in dire need of updating information, enforcement of ordinances that have already been placed. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to facilitate a right structure of monitoring and enforcement. And I've had the pleasure to spend 2 hours separately with Jody and also George and did a presentation of awareness of what's happening with tourism. And I'd like to propose as part of the funding for 3 years that open space funding go to a 30-70 breakdown and use 70% to catch up on things that were never considered. Enforcement. We only have, I think, 3 deputies that deal with the community parks and everything like that. And with the oversaturation of tourism, it is a sad representation for visitors that go into our parks now because of the abuse of non-enforcement and non-monitoring. So Friends of Clear Creek has developed a program called Trail Buddies. It's a volunteer program for anybody that utilizes open space parks, an awareness program to send a message to our QR code, and then we'll contact the entities to let them know, hey, we've got this problem or whatever. I invite you to look at friendsofclearcreek.org. And I unfortunately gave my resignation. It's been a journey of 47 years to go, to come back. And I've used my my advocacy for environmental issues as a memory of 50 years ago, what Clear Creek County used to be. It's been used and abused. Now we gotta be accountable to bring back the legacy of history preservation. And due to a neurological disorder that has changed my life and also a cardiovascular problem, I have to leave for treatment and hopefully be back. I've laid down a solid foundation through Friends of Clear Creek. I want to thank Margie Casperi, who is an incredible spirit of mine, and also Ron Atkinson, co-founders, both the Friends of Clear Creek. I've been kind of the frontline soldier. I've been on the one putting flyers up and creating programs, events, and fundraising. And that's what's kept me alive, is having that task of giving back. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to apologize for my emotions. That's part of my disorder. Speaking from the heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mojo. Thank you so much for coming. Yes. Oh.
My name is Cynthia Skeen and I live that way. I live on 2nd Street. And every day on the way to the post office, I walk by these county offices and I just say to myself, if the county commissioners could just walk around the parking lot, walk down Argentine, 6th Street, and look at what a mess is the outside of this county building. I just don't see that you would really want it to be the face of Clear Creek County. And we've got, rubble from last year when they changed the wiring on the utility poles. We have trash by the picnic table and by the dumpster. The grass is all dead, the weeds are dying. The little trash can is not bear-proof and it's usually overflowing, not always. And I don't think that it would take a huge amount of money to do something about that. But I think that first you would have to, take a little look around the grounds and see what I'm talking about, because I just can't think that the county commissioners would want that kind of a face for the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just briefly
George?
appreciate it. I walk and look at the building too, and I think this is a consequence of running too lean as a government. And we got to find a solution to that. I agree with you.
Unlike Mojo, I'm not good at speaking off the cuff, so I wrote down what I wanted to say.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Deanna Smith. That's my husband. As most of you know, we run the Idaho Springs RV Resort. I first wanted to thank you guys for what you do, because I know it's a lot. Just balancing the needs of everything that happens with recreation and tourism. Like many of you, I deeply care for Clear Creek County. I serve on the tourism board. I'm active in Rotary. Every day my business promotes this county's attractions and restaurants and businesses. We created this Discovery Pass to encourage our guests to explore the county instead of simply sleeping here and moving on. Through our marketing efforts, we have data showing that our guests are staying longer, which means they're spending more money in Clear Creek County. This county's success is our success. We don't own a corporate campground where profits leave the community. We live here, we raise our family, and we invest time and energy into this county. Over the past several weeks, I've taken the time to read the planning documents for the shooting range. What stood out to me is the county's consistently recognized noise mitigation as a critical part of this project. The documents explain that acoustic testing directly influenced the design of specialized shooting enclosures and other sound mitigation features. They also state that this work helped to secure $860,000 shooting range development grant. Later documents described the project as including a state-of-the-art noise mitigation. Then in 2024, we learned the portions of this originally planned sound mitigation system had been changed due to cost. I am not here to debate whether the decisions were right or wrong. I'm simply asking that we determine whether the current design is achieving the noise level of mitigation that was originally intended. On May 30th, I received complaints from campers about gunfire coming from the range. I walked over to see what was happening. There were only 2 people shooting that afternoon, and the current overhead structures had already been installed. Despite that, the gunfire was still noticeable enough that campers brought it to our attention. As both a business owner and a resident of this county, it gave me genuine concern. Our closest RV site is approximately 600 feet from the firing line. People come to our campground to spend time with their families, listen to the creek, enjoy the mountains, and experience everything Clear Creek has to offer. Today, I'm not asking to assign blame. I'm asking you to help protect 2 valuable community assets that sit side by side. The shooting range is an important asset. The campground is also an important asset. Even though we welcome visitors every week we welcome visitors across the country, those visitors eat at our restaurants, shop in our stores, ride our attractions, book rafting trips, visit our museums, and support businesses in Clear Creek County. I believe both of these facilities can succeed together. I don't think we should rely on assumptions. I would respectfully ask the county to work with us to objectively evaluate the actual noise reaching neighboring properties before the range opens to the public. If the current mitigation is performing as intended, that's good information for everyone. If it isn't, that lets us work to identify reasonable solutions before it becomes a larger problem. We've spent years promoting this county. We believe in it. Today, I'm simply asking the county to help ensure two important community assets can both succeed for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. You're a very good public speaker. That was an excellent way to raise this concern. And I agree that the shooting range is a good asset. Keeps people from shooting down, you know, lovely trees in our forest because they couldn't find any other targets. But then again, we owe a duty to the neighbors. So thank you. I will, Jody, do you want to follow up on that? That was one of your
So,
issues.
Since I'm in the neighborhood too, I do know that the shooting range in the past has been an issue for residents. We have people that raise animals and I do know that they're waiting for the gun range to open to see what kind of sound this makes. That gun range has been there since I was little. It used to be a fairgrounds and the fairgrounds is no longer there, so the gun range was expanded. And a lot of added soundproofing. I'm definitely no expert in that. I did visit the Devil's Nose shooting range. In comparison, it's supposed to be about the same. They're in totally different locations. Devil's Nose is kind of off by itself, whereas the Clear Creek shooting range is, to me, it's kind of in a residential area. I hear it by my house. And I'm by Charlie's place, so noise definitely travels. I know we've got I-70. I-70 has changed since I have moved to where I'm at. It's much, much louder. And I know that this is something that we just have to deal with and see how this works out. I know Lisa Laban discussed the noise and it is not, I believe it's supposed to be under 500 decibels. And I can't, just because it's not open, I don't know. And with the stage 2 fire ban, I don't think that it can now open. Am I correct?
No, but I'm still curious. When was that? What date?
It was May 30th and there were 2 people with their 2 children there.
I don't,
I think they were shooting illegally there. Personally, I saw them too, but
they were just in there because I don't, we
And
haven't.
The local guys
I
with the
was like
fences
you,
down.
I was kind of waiting to see, well, maybe this thing that they put in will stop it, maybe whatever. And
And I mean, just really recent new things have been put in. I've been noticing a lot of changes because at first I was like, it doesn't look the same, but there has been a lot of work that's been happening just like in the last month. So in June, the canopies were put on. I would assume they're going to be,
Regardless, it's a concern that we, one, had people shooting in there and didn't know about it. And two.
but they did do classes in there.
Yeah, so I'm following up and yeah, I think at least from staff's perspective, we would be concerned if you were hearing it already. So.
Yeah, I know my
follow up
husband's went by and
figure
seen
out
the gate open.
What's going on?
That to that back area, the big gate where the excavating equipment, it was opened. So I don't know if it was left open
The
intentionally.
construction crews have been in and out of there and I don't know. I'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll,
there was no construction crews that day. That's
Yeah.
specifically, I don't know what day it was.
okay.
Maybe
They didn't look like they
Saturday,
were supposed to be there.
maybe Sunday.
And just so you know, it's not gonna be like people can go in there and shoot like before. This is gonna be managed by the rec center. And people have to check in, they've got to rent the space, and I'm sure that, I think that there's, you can't just go in there with like super high powered guns like before. The whole thing has changed, so I'm gonna be, I guess, as interested to see how this goes as well, and watch the complaints if they come in.
You guys have got my number. If so, just let me know. Like if something's happening that day, that's just easier. If you can let us know so I can figure out exactly what's going on.
Is it still TBD for opening?
You don't have a set date yet,
I don't have a set date.
And I think it was, oh, was it?
And now we have the issue of the stage 2.
Yeah.
Which prevents shooting even in rain.
Yeah, stage 2 fire ban. And I also had heard that they were working on the noise mitigation.
They still are
They still are.
putting stuff in, but regardless, it's good information to have.
Yeah,
I'll just share
Yeah.
a little bit. I visited a shooting range that really helped convince me that we could do this without impacting the neighborhood. My fear was that sure, whatever is going to be there was going to be better and safer than what was there before. Certainly safer with some supervision. We probably will increase the volume of shooting because we're closing big sections of the forest to shooting. And this range is how we're doing it. And so I think it's a very legitimate concern. The range I visited does not had a different approach to noise mitigation than the one we have here. My understanding is it's like a device that tries to counteract the sound waves as they're created. And it's in the ceiling. So when you look and you see no walls, you're like, how can anybody claim noise mitigation? We're going to have to see how this device works and be reactive, because the traditional approach is a lot more like what you and I would think. And what I saw where they had a shooting range right across the street from a neighborhood, and it was basically thick walls. I think it will be incumbent on this board to monitor what's going on and find the money to improve that situation if it's not good enough. And because yes, we had major sticker shock, and we did have to take what hopefully is a still effective and less expensive approach to noise mitigation. So that's just a little bit more of the commentary. The good news is that everybody north of I-70 will be safer once this opens, because the shooting around their homes will stop.
And that brings me to the other part too, is when this opens and those other closures happen. I noticed in my neighborhood when the Devil's Nose opened and they did close part of the south side down, those people shooting moved. And so now they're in my neighborhood.
Oh.
And luckily this summer hasn't been as bad. And I don't know if it's because it's so dry. I'm hoping people are using common sense and just aren't coming up and doing it, but it will move around this activity. And the National Forest has a thing on their website. And do we still have it on ours where you can report? And so if it's continuing to be a problem, that's another area that could potentially be shut down. I'm hoping my neighborhood gets shut down because, you know, there's houses right next to where they're shooting. They're sometimes shooting at houses.
Oh.
They're not realizing just on the other side of those trees are houses.
Wow.
So this is a fluid thing that we're just gonna have to keep working on, and people are gonna have to keep calling in those reports because the National Forest doesn't know, you know, they don't know where the people are, but we do. So as residents to, you know, let them know.
And just while we're on the topic, shooting in a stage 1 or a stage 2 is not allowed.
And we were in a stage 1 on May 30th, right?
Yes, fire ban.
But at stage
So,
1, you can do it in a gun range.
in a gun range.
But not if they are trespassing.
But
Well, and that's what
I
I'm
just-
wondering, were they even in the bays? Like, were they just out there shooting? And so that's why it was traveling.
they were in the bays and everything, but yeah, I totally understand. Even before we went in, our business even opened, I pulled up one time, there was a guy on our property shooting a fully automatic weapon.
Whoa.
It's like,
Yeah.
and he said he thought we were the shooting range, so.
Oh.
But yeah, you know, things, I'm actually really glad because I had talked to Lisa a lot about all this. And I know originally, yeah, it was supposed to be all walled off, and she did tell me, I think it was like, I think she threw out like a $900,000 number for that. And it was like, yeah, which is crazy, but yeah, I'm really glad you guys are still working towards the noise mitigation of things, so.
I bring up the state of the law because when the areas are closed, I think it's important for people to know the rules and report. We're trying to get some peace and some safety in our communities, and I hope we achieve the benefit associated with the cost of what we just did with that shooting range.
And just to be clear, I'm not anti-shooting range. I just want my guests to have an enjoyable time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we're gonna take it very seriously once it's opening. I was just more concerned about the fact that I didn't think we'd had any shooters in there officially. And so we're following up and we'll figure out And then once we get closer to actually being able to open it, which may need, the shooting might now be next year. Or at least when the ban's over, we're really interested to hear your experience, just so we know if we need to do better or figure out a different way or something. Because we want it to be good neighbors, because everything's pretty tight here in the canyon, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in the DLD since 2008, and I can tell you, I never got used to driving by there. And they're shooting at that time, you're like, it's just for some reason, it just takes you.
It's different from highway noise. Highway noise is almost white noise, like background noise, and it's different from like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
gunshot, what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't get used to it.
And I feel massively guilty. I took a gun safety course there with about 20 other students and we were all shooting away and yeah, I'm sorry.
I actually don't care. I don't just care what my guests think. That's honestly all it is.
If you go to our website, there is a webpage on the shooting park. It's got updates and all that kind of fun stuff. And there's also a section where you can report illegal shooting, and that's to the Forest Service. And it's ARPRSS@USDA.gov. They want you to email them and all the information, and then they'll follow up.
Now, why would they report to the Forest Service when it's on county property? Shouldn't they
No,
report it?
not illegal shooting in our range, illegal.
Oh, in the forest.
Oh, yeah, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
yeah, just in general,
Yep.
like, yeah.
Okay,
It's so
thank
they
you.
know where to shut down other areas,
Mhm.
so they can
Okay.
keep working on it.
Mojo.
Can I just follow up with the question, George, could you please update us with the chat team, the crisis help assistance team that was developed? I've been a participant of the program for 18 months, and I'm going to be probably the first success story with the help of the transition. And they've been helping me with some very serious issues concerning VA healthcare. Also given me rides down to my appointment and everything. So I want to compliment the program. It's working. There's more people in our county that need to be aware that it's available. They just hired 2 new employees. And like I said, if I wasn't helped at the time, I wouldn't be here. They've done a wonderful job in rewiring and assisting me with my realization of my brain injury. And I just would like to reach out now so more people at this venue know about the chat team and the wonderful work that they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
The CChat team is an emergency service, right? And so when you call 911, if what you're having is a behavioral health crisis, CChat is who shows up. They're not open 24/7. But sometimes they show up with a police officer and sometimes they show up without a police officer, just depending on what's going on with the call. That program right now is funded, completely grant funded. I think most of it is through, I mentioned I'm on behavioral health stuff, but I did not mention the Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council. This was a big lawsuit. State of Colorado participated. The people who created the opioid crisis paid in, the pharmaceutical companies and distributors. And that is how that program is being paid for right now. In addition to some other programming that we have in the county. But yes, I'm really proud of that team. Have a ton of faith in their leadership. I'm really happy to hear that this after the call follow-up is working for people.
Oh, it's an incredible service that needs to be brought up to the forefront because before that group, we lost several veterans in this county to suicide.
Yes.
And it does make a difference. And it is a venue that is something that is more of a disorder than an illness, and awareness and asking for help is the first step. So thank you again for the Sheriff Department and everybody that has our health and concern, mainly mental health with all the stressors after COVID and everything like that. We all get to that point where we just need some talk therapy and some assistance and someone who cares and has the empathy of one word that's missing in our language, mindfulness. we gotta be mindful for ourselves and mindful for other people.
I really appreciate you bringing it up. I want to be really, really clear. CChat is an emergency program.
Right.
Asking for help is a brave thing to do, and more people need to do it. I have a therapist. I'm glad you do too, but like ideally, people seek help before they need to call 911 because of a behavioral health crisis. When you do need to call 911, CChat is going to be there for you. But just want to make sure that that's really clear.
No, I just want to express the multi-levels where it begins with that outreach in contact with CChat. They've helped me get in with other venues and enabled me, instead of progressing, I was regressing, and using the services that are provided. I just want to compliment you for that program being provided as a buffer.
Thank you. Does anyone else have? Yes, please.
Pretty sure. Nancy Santagata, I live on Mill Creek and kind of own property in between Mill Creek and Fall River. And I'm here today as a resident. Would like you to understand that. And I want to echo some things that Mojo brought up in terms of management of open space. I have some concerns about that. Our property borders open space on more than one property lines. And kind of in the context of what George said, that Commissioner Marlin, apologies, that we as residents need to focus on taking care of our own properties. County open space, the county owns these properties and they're not taken care of in many different aspects. Fire mitigation, trash dumping, living on them kind of things. So I have been attending the Open Space Commission meetings to sort of get a feel for what's going on in that context. And my impression is nothing, that it's very disorganized, and I'm disappointed by those meetings. In fact, the last meeting, it was suggested that the residents should police the open space. And I believe this is, yes, Sergeant Imre, which I have a nice relationship with, I hope.
So far.
In a different, completely unrelated, different context, but I'm not gonna, and I apologize every time that I talk to him because my issue is extremely stupid. And I do not want to add more. You know, the Open Space Commission suggested that residents police the open space. Which I'm not gonna do because it's not my property. I have my own problems on my property, which I'm policing. And so I'm expressing concern about the county open space management. And in some sense, I would like, you know, Mojo said a lot and I agreed with it, but nobody replied. And so if we could have a reply, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, so we've been talking to Mojo, maybe is why we should have replied for the rest of the audience. We have been meeting with Open Space and doing walkthroughs. George and I met with Mojo for an extensive time, and he showed us, you know, a lot of things. Us as commissioners, we're all over. We're in public health, we're in human services, and open space. And it's nice when the public comes and tells us stuff, signs that are backwards, you know, signs that
That's
have
what I
fallen
noticed that
down.
day.
And we actually brought our issues to the open space at the last meeting. And this wasn't the open meeting. This was us taking a tour of the properties. I think we attended 4 of them the last time. The roster of Philadelphia, the Dumont Trailhead, and then the open space around Charlie's Place. And all of those have issues with people driving motorcycles and just tearing up the land. There's a lack of signs. I can tell you that when we brought some of this, there has been some signs put up. Not exactly what I wanted, but it's temporary signs for now. There needs to be more permanent. We do have an issue with the allocations, like Mojo said, it's 60% acquisition, 40% management. And at some point, I think the board has kind of recommended that maybe we need to switch that, and we need to go to the voters for that approval.
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
So that's another ballot measure. Open Space has not brought that to the board. We've done a lot of recommendations for the board of the open space to, I guess, kind of change their behavior and think of this management, this whole, to me, open space is management. That's the way I look at it. But previous open spaces, I think, has looked at it as more of an acquisition. We own a lot of land, and it's really tough for 9,200 people to pay to manage all this land. And we're at a point right now that we're making recommendations to the open space, and you know, there's openings on this board, just like some of the other boards, and we've asked for more participation. It was a pretty small board before, and we are starting to get more people to apply. I can't remember if it's like 3 more.
With 3 applicants, I think.
Yeah, we have like 3 more interviews that we'll be doing. So I see as more people come on board, seeing some change. And I don't know how that works with the acquisition, that we can just do that, or if
No, it has to-
they have to bring
It
that.
has to go to you.
They
Oh, are you
bring
talking
it
about
to
the split?
us. Yeah.
No, you can put a split on the ballot.
So, you know, that may be something that we just have to do then. But it's a lot. It's a lot right now. And it is disheartening when you go to one of these and there's graffiti all over them, or,
Yeah, signs falling down, rotted out, tipped over.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to clarify, I do have that concern, it's the Philadelphia mill site, which is closest to my property.
Mhm.
And so that box culvert is covered in graffiti, right? That's one concern of mine, and that, you know, there's people living in the Philadelphia mill site or parked there for long term.
Yeah, they did get removed.
But dumping, and so I do have that concern about the developed open space, I'll call it that. My property, however, shares a line with Sheepkeep in more than one place, and it's the people dumping on Sheepkeep and people damaging Sheepkeep, with some unpermitted, unauthorized road work through our property that also went through Sheepkeep. And then, you know, indirectly, the Philadelphia mill site affects us, I believe, last summer, I cannot tell you how many times I picked up people's toilet paper on my property, so defecating. And part of that is, and more than once, until I realized it was toilet paper, because it was
Oh,
eventually.
And that's at Mill Creek?
no, this is near the Sheep Keep.
North Springville.
Okay, so it is at Philadelphia. Okay.
Mill site, which I don't, you know, those toilets, I don't know their maintenance status or something, you know, that's kind of a problem. And it's more, you know, and my neighbors report to me that we have shooting there on North Spring Gulch too. I personally have never seen it. I will definitely call my friend, sorry, if there are people shooting on my property. But it's the Sheepkeep kind of that concerns me. That's what I have to clean up. Some guys parked a full-size camper there and left his sink and parts of his camper, and there's a water heater. And it's, you know, half on me and half on open space, and I don't want it, and I need to get rid of it because then people think they can dump there.
Right.
So this kind of makes me think of that NOCO situation. You know, we discussed with the NOCO, there's grants through, it starts at GOCO and it's a pass through CPW. And then we're a partnership with NOCO, so it's 9 entities from Larimer County down. And we've talked about how can Clear Creek County benefit from one of these grants, and one of them was a human waste study. Colton's the one that brought it up, and so I invited, I'm like, hey, want to come up to Clear Creek and have some fun? So we showed him all the rocks that are named like P-Rock. The locals have named things that the tourists are using, and we don't realize, like, why did they choose that rock until you get out of your car and you look, where's the first place you can get cover, right? When you come off of I-70, or maybe you were out on a hike. And so that's the first rock. And then you will walk behind there and it will be piles of toilet paper.
Mm.
And me and my husband, because we don't have a cleanup in the DLD area, we'll come to Georgetown or Idaho Springs, and a couple times we'll grab the bags and we'll go back into like where you're talking and we will clean all that up. You can go back 3 months later and it is back. It is just happening that fast. And so we're asking NOCO Places to come in and can we get some help? Because there again, 9,200 people cannot pay for millions of people that come across on I-70 and are enjoying our area mostly for free. It's a lot of free stuff. And I've talked about the free stuff and people have just like, they're not coming up and doing free stuff. They're spending money. And then luckily we brought Colton on board and he did some stats. And yep, guess what? It's like 80% of the people are coming up and they're doing the free stuff. And then they're going back into the Front Range and they're spending money in Golden and Lakewood and Littleton. And they could be spending that money here so that we could be managing this. But right now, what does this human waste study show us? Like how much is going into the creek? And then this brings us to George's issue. If we are contaminating the waters up here with our visitors, it's going right down into the creek and contaminating the water that Westminster is drinking. And, you know, what does that look like to them? So this is like a partnership. Larimer County has issues, Boulder, we've all kind of got these same issues of everybody from the Front Range, and it's day trippers. It's not people coming in from another state or another country. It's people from the Front Range that are just coming in for the day. So that's a management thing that we're trying to learn. How can we do this? And we do have a lot of locals that don't want us to manage it. You know, they're like, you're taking away my rights. I've always shot my guns here. I don't understand this. And it makes it really hard for the sheriff's department, especially the ones that have grown up around here and then they've got to go stop this activity. But if people understood why we're doing it and we're trying to protect our environment and our communities and keep us safe. And we're at a breaking point right now. There's too many people coming and visiting to what we can manage.
Jody, if I could quickly segue, every one of the open space parks, the toilets have been closed because they're the wrong design. In the appearance of just a porta potty, even up at Silverdale where it's at the wrong location, it's too much for a tourist to walk across the parking lot and utilize the 55-gallon trash can. They leave their poo bags along the trail and stuff like that. It comes again to enforcement. At one time, Silverdale used to be closed every day at sunset. So you put a lot of money in developing a handicap trail and everything like that, and through neglect, lack of budgeting and everything, we've fallen behind in open space park and access to overuse because of over access without limiting in different areas that have high impact. Bakerville, it's a biohazard and it goes directly into the watershed. So thank you for bringing that up.
It is, but you know what's interesting? My parents live in Idaho Springs, in the middle of Idaho Springs, and people will go to the bathroom in front of their house.
Yeah.
Oh,
There are several places to go to the bathroom. I don't understand it. But they've got this big, nice picture window there and they will watch a bicyclist pull over, pull down their pants, go to the bathroom. So like, how do you fix stuff like that,
Well, I
right?
think really it's just getting the open space parks presentable for visitors to make an impression. I mean, if you go look at the overlook between Silver Plume and Georgetown off of I-70, it's terrible up there. In fact, the Historical Society put up these 3 metal signs with the history
Mhm.
and all that.
I was just up
There's
there.
28 large caliber rounds that where people have used it as a target, and what's scary, half of them are from behind, pointed directly at I-70. And I brought that to the attention of Jeremy at the Sheriff Department and that. But see, this is part of the Clear Creek County Sheriff is obligated for a lot of different responsibilities, and they're totally understaffed when it comes to enforcement and also just awareness training for these tourists that this is our quality of life. We're giving you free information and this is the disrespect. I mean, if you go up there right now, it's a trash pit up there. But I want you to look at those gunshot holes and how these gangs are coming up here and leaving their graffiti and that. So it's a lot of behind the scenes of people finally getting off their butts and going on foot and seeing the damage that's been done. And some of it can't be repaired, mainly for the illegal prospecting that's taking place here. So
So I was gonna say, like, as far as the bathroom stuff goes, and I don't know if we've gotten any updates, but I think like CDOT bears some responsibility in this. You know, when we travel, there are visitor centers, there's bathrooms. We have one here in Georgetown. And the traffic that comes through that is crazy. So, you know, what if we were to have something like that at the Empire Junction, you know, or I know a lot of people were upset with the trucks stop up at Bakerville, but what if we had a place for people to be able to pull over and go to the bathroom? Like there's some ideas that I think that, you know, the community needs to think about. What does that look like? If people were, I don't think people want to go to the bathroom where they're going to the bathroom. I think it's that you stop at the Maverick and the doors are locked and you've got three little ones behind you. Like what happens then, right? So who bears this responsibility? And it's very expensive for a business to take on porta potties. I know I worked at the Squatch store and I think we had 4 porta potties out there and they have 3 bathrooms inside and it still was not enough. They were constantly having to clean those out and it's expensive.
I know there's an old dispensary up in Silver Plume that's empty that would make a visitor pee stop in Silver Plume and bring also traffic into the outlet cannabis right off the exit going westbound into that building was an outlet mall for cannabis dispensary. And now it's empty. And that would be an ideal location to look for that thing without the monitoring, the enforcement, the signage and everything like that. You have these visitor centers and everything like that. And inpatient bladders from eastbound in the tunnel down to Georgetown is your only possibility. Maybe that might be something to look at that's already developed that might be for sale, is to look at the old dispensary in Silver Plume on the exit. And it would also be utilized probably by the guests from the Loop Railroad.
Rebecca, before we move on, I just want to offer a few comments. I know there's somebody else that had a comment to make as well. Not to repeat everything that was said, but I heard a little bit of a flavor of what you were talking about being related to code enforcement. To the extent that this is happening on private property by those property owners, I want you all to know that this board takes code enforcement very seriously. And we have, I think, earned the reputation of a place, both by our residents and our visitors, who these people are, this isn't like random people. These are people that know us, they know about us, they're in and out of our community all the time, right? They're neighbors. We have a reputation that this is a place that you can come and act how you want, whether it's because you bought a piece of property and you think you can build a cabin without a bathroom and see how that works out for 10 years, or you know, show up at the Philadelphia mill site. This board is very serious about getting our arms around that. But we need help, right? I was looking at my phone a second ago to see what Jefferson County's open spaces tax rate is. They have a 0.5 cent sales tax that generates enough money for a staff larger than the entire government of Clear Creek County. Just to give you a sense of the scale of the resources. And this is why we spend so much time in these regional relationships. Jody keeps mentioning NOCO places because we need help. So I wanted to mention that. The fire mitigation piece of your comment, I want to make sure it doesn't go unheard or unresponded to. Open space is one of, let's just say, every land manager in the country that really hasn't, as we acquired property over the last few decades, taken planning or budgeting for forest health and fire mitigation seriously. I've never seen it in the budget. Those conversations are starting. They're not going to proceed at a pace that makes you happy, but we're aware of it. And that is, I think that's everything on my list that I wanted to respond to.
Well, to follow up on that, we have a code enforcement officer who has been very active, and we have the deputy or assistant county attorney has been prosecuting those cases and bringing it before the judge. And this is an improvement over the past few years of kind of ignoring some of these things. So we are trying. We did remove or have somebody remove above Silver Plume, there is a lot of illegal kind of campsites and everything. And we have been, there was an illegal resort up there. It was advertising on Craigslist. It's like, oh, come to this great resort of hot springs and everything. And, completely unpermitted, unlicensed, uninspected. He just kind of threw it up and threw it out there. So we have been enforcing what we can. Please keep reporting things to the county so we know. We have all of this Forest Service land that, kind of makes it hard for us to address everything. But if it's on county land or if it's by your private property and somebody else is dumping on your land, please report it. We don't have a huge code enforcement staff, but we do have one. And we've been trying to get better about following up on that. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I remember the last thing, which is just quickly in defense of public acquisition of properties. Open space owns a lot of properties that are worth owning, that are worth saving. I don't regret a single one of them being on the books for us. If you go, there's a mapping system called ClearMap. Go look at ClearMap and look at all the private properties spread across the hillsides, way up in high mountain basins, and think to yourself whether you would like to see, right now, all of them can have a home built on them. Think about whether you'd like to see driveways be built on those hillsides so that homes can be built, et cetera, et cetera. Not affordable housing homes, right? Second homes. And just, I hope that as a body politic, we move forward the same way we did in the 90s when we passed this thing, acknowledging the value of the open space fund and the value of property acquisition. Right up here is one of these landscapes, view sheds that we've protected with that money. And I wouldn't ask for a penny back of my tax dollars to acquire that land.
However, although I agree, we also have a duty as landowners to make sure that, we at least keep an eye on things and try to fix problems before they get worse.
If I can add really fast, apologies, I don't envy your position, okay, so I think you were around when the BLM land transfer happened, maybe not officially, but as residents.
Mhm.
So the property that my husband and I own is part of that BLM land transfer. It's one of the larger chunks that was sold as private property. And I, in trying to understand some issues with our land, I went back and literally read the transcripts of congressional testimony of how that transfer happened, and the BLM did not want that property anymore because there was chunks literally measured in inches, and they didn't want to manage it, right? So, or couldn't manage it. So, but the county wound up absorbing it, and now BLM's problem is now the county's problem. And I don't envy that position, right? But also, I don't want people's RV parks on half me. I have to deal with it and pay for the transfer station disposal fees from stuff that's not mine.
Well, and it also sounds like those were not legal RV parks. Those are people just parking their RVs, right?
There was an RV park there for a while, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Clear Creek County Public Lands Transfer Act was in 1993.
Huh.
So,
But it didn't actually, our land was officially sold as private in 2001.
okay.
It took a long time to offload. That was when they started the process.
They asked for an extension, a 10-year extension.
The point I want to make is these are some of the decisions that were made when we had a single large employer providing more than 75% of our top property tax receipts. We are in a different era. So many of the questions I've heard today are basically about one service or another that we can do better on. And it all comes down to money.
I mean, it is a question of scale. I mean, one of the challenges that we have just in general is DPR, Denver Parks and Rec, for their parks, they get 16 million visitors a year. That's a lot. They have 800 employees. We get 9 million. We got 4, right? 4 staff for open space. That's it. That's it. Right? So 800 to 4. And that's like largely the scale of the problem, is this disparity between what is our local capacity to pay for based on our very, very small tax base, because 80% of our land is public in some capacity. That limits our ability to even tax things, and just the monumental amount of people that move through. And that 9 million visitors doesn't include 70. That's people who get out of their car. 70 adds another 18 million cars. So 23 million people. So that's the population of Florida. Right? And we have 4. Right? And so that's where like the disparity between our capacity and our responsibility is monumentally acute. And but I think, and so to the board said, a lot of our solutions rely in growing our pool of partners to be able to absorb that impact, right? You've got a metro that can afford 800 dedicated park employees, right? Where we know 75+% of the people who visit here are from the metro, right? And so we have to be better about figuring out how to use the feds and use the state and use the metro neighbors to give us a little bit more breathing room. Because the reality is that level of pressure, even if we were by some miracle able to double our open space staff to a grand total of 8, we would still have a problem, right? Just because of the amount of people. But I think, that's just my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of something too. I was talking to a constituent today and they feel like we're targeting like STRs. And like last year, it was the unincorporated area and it hit some of my neighbors hard, raising their taxes by $300 a year. Somebody that's, was a teacher or something and they're on a very fixed income. I had one of my neighbors just say, I can't do it anymore. I've got to move. She's 80. So us neighbors were like, how can we help you? Can we get some money together every year and we'll just like help pay her taxes or, cause it's really sad. And I feel bad because I went out and I campaigned for that, because we needed that money for emergency services. When we were borrowing every third, they call ambulances buses, but every third time we were borrowing that from Gilpin. So we needed to come up with a way, and that's not even like shoring up the money that they need. It just gets us closer to that position. And this year, when we talk about the lodging tax, and this guy was like, that could kill my business. He's got 2 STRs up at St. Mary's. And I said, yeah, but what if that $6 on $100 could go to, say, like, you're on the tourism board. If we could put more money into getting people up to those STRs so that they're fuller. And I see the RV park is really full. So we can kind of keep this revolving thing where people are coming in and spending more money. That overall helps us. Like, we are not planning on killing STRs. STRs helps us in the long run. So we want the STRs to thrive, short-term rentals, as much as the people that own those properties. Because as they thrive, then that helps shore up. It does not solve all of our budget problems, but it gets us that much closer. An excise tax would be great. George was talking about the services that it's a lot of tax-free stuff that people enjoy here.
Yeah, the river rafting he mentioned, ski tickets aren't taxed. It's, when your economy changes from extractive industry to a tourist economy, and we have 2 ski resorts here and we have all the river rafting, none of that can be taxed by the county. Cities have different abilities to tax, but Echo and Loveland are both on unincorporated Clear Creek, and Clear Creek itself is in, the river rafting, Idaho Springs.
They have, I think, a couple. But
But we can't. So anyway.
What would we have to do to be able to, to be able to tax that? Because it just seems crazy.
State statute.
It's state statute.
It's a
Yeah.
state statute.
We haven't heard from you. Yes, sir.
Jonathan Deshaw, live in St. Mary's area.
Or who I was talking to, yes,
Nice to meet
yes.
you. So yes, I just wanted to address the board. We didn't hear much about this proposal. And so a lot of people are wondering, like how transparent this will be. For one, I know the county needs money in a lot of ways. I did some research since we talked. It depends on how it's presented to the tourist. So if they're looking to book something and if they see the full price, then they might not book. But if they don't see, and then the taxes are added on as the last thing before they check out, then they might say, okay, fine. I think that's what everybody wants, because then the owners don't get hurt and the county gets money.
I would assume that is the way that Airbnb or VRBO would do that, because I don't think that's like how the county.
It currently is,
Yeah.
but they could change it. So that's our worry for one. And then for two is that there is a small drop based on research. I saw like 3 to 7% of bookings. So if the board would consider how that affects us, that percentage drop going forward, so maybe the tourism would up it, or promote us to make that even, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, and then the last thing is, since you have everyone's contact info, if you make it transparent and reach out to the people it affects, since you guys have all the info of the licensed people that do that, so that's all.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
You're going to address the tax issue in other jurisdictions?
Yeah, I was going to address his comments, but
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I wanted to have somebody address.
So yes, taxes in Colorado. Colorado is the most, from my knowledge, transparent state in the country on how taxes are raised. It'll be on your ballot. There's no more transparent than that. If the voters don't want it, it's not going to happen. Of course, all the board's proceedings. We had a work session to discuss the lodging tax that was recorded and open, and you can go watch it. I think that was May. If you follow up offline, I can get you the exact date if you'd like. And I hear you about the potential for some reduced volume. I hope is that our neighbors will continue to raise their rates. I know Gilpin has rate because that really is a competitive disadvantage only when your neighbors don't have rates that are similar. This can work, right? Florida has a lodging tax rate around 16%, and they're still Florida. So not to be dismissive of your concerns, if I could design a better tool and get it passed through the legislature, I would. But the fact is, this is the only tool that's currently legal that really is a direct line between the costs that visitors impose on us and the services that we need to be able to pay for, that we've been talking about all night, to offset those costs. But I take your points well, especially your point about public engagement. And you can always respond at the ballot box, but welcome any comments as we continue to debate in public what this ballot language will look like and whether to put it on the ballot. Definitely welcome your comments.
And when you talk about transparency too, like right now, the ballot that went last time, it was 30, 30, 40. So 40% went to the tourism board and 30% went to childcare and 30% went to the housing authority. That's very specific. And this tax is also, it's pretty concrete in what it's intended for, and it's for the tourism experience, right? It's to enhance the tourism experience. That's by emergency services. That's by the sheriff being able to patrol different areas. That's to make things safer. And the tourism board for promoting housing for workforce and childcare. That's all kind of things that have been bundled into that. I'm sure there's others, but Clear Creek was very transparent, and we still are very transparent where that money goes. You can see exactly, like, I think it was 95,000 just went to childcare. And then Housing Authority has their money, but if you go into our budgets to the last dime, it goes exactly. It doesn't just go into just this, ever extended budget to go into whatever.
Commissioner Hartley-Boss.
Yes,
You said something earlier about the day trippers being the ones that cause the majority of the problem? I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you said.
No, those are just the people that come up and they get to do the free stuff because then they can just go home, right? They don't have to have a place to stay. We have plenty of people that do. Like I'm a day tripper that goes and stays in Leadville. I'll go there and just go shopping and then I'll come back. So there are
But at least
places,
you're shopping. You're not just hiking and going
yeah, or
home.
going to eat, but
I guess I'm wondering, are there ways to make those things not free? I mean, just like when you go up to St. Mary's and you gotta pay $20 to park a car.
We had tolling Guanilla Pass as figuring out how to toll Guanilla Pass as a goal.
Thank you for coming.
Just one example. So
Can I throw an idea about the OTB and the vehicles that park at Silverdale and down at Lawson with these oversized trailers? And they have access to our backcountry and everything like that, maybe proposing a daily parking fee because they are on county property. It does need to be cleaned up and maintained. And that's a number of vehicles within the county that park alongside the road to go down the side of the hill, go fishing or whatever, but they're still utilizing that road and the side of it, also making their own little parkways and that. But for example, if you had something for the side by sides and that at Silverdale that has no organized parking up there. I mean, sometimes only 3 people can use that, but if you had a $3 fee or something like that, at least you're recovering the maintenance and also the surveillance, some of that.
ideally, those people are paying $100 ticket. Colton, I thought I saw you had something to add.
Just a couple of things. I mean, so we, I lost my track of thought when I was listening to Mojo, but, we've looked at charging in open space parking lots, particularly charging on the side of the road can be difficult. And what the stand-up cost alone, as well as the processing of the tickets and the collecting of the fees pretty much washes the revenue.
A
And-
QR code or something like that.
And the problem is the asymmetry of the visitation rate. It's like we as locals, and I live on Floyd Hill, so I can't even leave my house on the weekend. I know how this feels where you feel like there's a million people and there are, but they all come at once and they all come in a very narrow window. And the rest of the time, our visitation levels are very low. If you look at picking up cell phones from all of our public land, it's this bing and then bing and then bing. And the problem is that surge and drop makes us experience a lot of like frustration and overcrowding all at once. But the reality is the majority of the time there's no one there. And so it makes the economics of parking challenging to pay for its costs. Especially when it's so dispersed everywhere. The other problem is federal land. We can't restrict access to federal land. And that's 75% of the county. So the majority of our recreational activity actually happens on federal land. Mount Blue Sky, Bierstead, Brazen Tories.
And using county roads, they actually enforce, and there's no enforcement there. Just like Silverdale, they use the road to get up to Waldorf and going up in that direction. So really, it's an oxymoron when you look at having ordinances and stuff like that and not having the budget to enforce the monitoring. And also signage. There's no signage, and I need to enforce that about that. We're inviting all these people up to these places and that, and look at Alvarado Park. I mean, they've torn away the poo station. They torn the no camping, no fishing, no overnighting sign, everything. And it's a free for all in one of our newest open space parks. And again, it's great access in that, but if you don't have signage, ordinance, protection and monitoring, what's the purpose of buying all this and opening it up to all these people who are coming up for their 3-hour stay for a picnic and driving back and everything is.
I wanted to address your question too. You said like, how can we get people to, the day trippers, how can we get them to stop coming for just the free stuff? And I think that's something that we talked with the tourism board is how to draw people in. Some of the recommendations that we've come out with no-go places is maybe like sponsoring signs. So signs that tell you this is where you should park or this is what you should do. And by the way, here are all these businesses in Clear Creek County. the trouble with that is like, how is that going to be fair? And I think those are things that we've looked into, and not that they're off the table, but just you have to do it right because you don't want to turn around and get sued. But there's a lot of options that, we have working sessions or people bring us ideas. Some are great and some state statute really limits a lot of stuff that unincorporated areas can do. And that's part of our issue. And then the lack of funds and the lack of money. That's why we're trying to just get like bits and pieces instead of saying, hey, 9,200 people, we need all this money from you. And it's basically to manage all these people that visit. I don't think that's fair. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Or just really quickly, I just want to add to that just really quickly.
I'll get you next.
We marketed for a long time in Clear Creek County in a way that was, could have piled the money up and burnt it as far as I'm concerned, as far as its effect. We used to market the woods, right? And the people know about the woods. They're coming to the woods already. I'm really excited that now our strategies are about marketing our economies, not the woods. And I think another important phase is teaching businesses what those folks want. Right? There's a mismatch between what folks are looking to buy and what our businesses are offering in a lot of cases.
And I was talking to Jonathan earlier today about, and I think it was you, Deanna, that was talking about like package deals. How you promote other businesses, and instead of coming and just going to Bojo's and then going home, how can you spend a whole weekend here doing things? You can go rafting, you can go do the gondola, you can do the train, and just like make a whole family organization. The rec center was even talking about the shooting. Maybe the family wants to come in and do rafting, but maybe grandpa doesn't want to. So grandpa can go over here and he can throw some axes or whatever they're going to be offering so that they can.
This is how we do it.
The Discovery Pass, yeah, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can.
Oh.
And so, and some other, I know communities have cards, and then they're discount cards. And then you get those people that come back, right? If they get a 10%, and sometimes it doesn't take much. And I see the elderly community really do this. They'll go to like Village Inn or Denny's, and it's not even like if it's great food or not, they just feel like they're getting something and they feel important, and they can flash this, I'm a locals card, or, I'm a repeat customer. And then you get Scouts used to sell them. And we had a local pack here, and it would go around to the businesses, and then they would donate X amount. But what they were doing is they were drawing people into their businesses. And maybe it was like a free root beer. I think Tommy Knockers used to do a free root beer or something.
Nice.
But it worked hand in hand. The Cub Scouts got to sell something that, made them some money. And then it brought people in to the businesses.
All boats rise together.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The gentleman in the hat, thank you for being so patient.
Thank you. So my name is Gino Dellapena, and I live up at St. Mary's Glacier. I'm actually not part of their community. I own the 80 acres from Big and mountainside that goes up to St. Mary's Glacier. Over the last 5 years, I built a business that supports the short-term rental industry up there, and I'm not the largest, one of the largest support entities up there for short-term rentals. I manage 8 of them. I have a cleaning business. We clean for 18 of them. We plow for 35 of them, et cetera, et cetera. And this has been for quite some time. And I've seen over the last 6 years, quite frankly, I've seen the changes in the short-term rental up there. We are by far the largest cluster in all of Clear Creek County. In Ordinance 19, while it had some positive effects on the short-term rental industry, it also had some very negative effects. And some of those I want to discuss tonight. One of the most important, which just came up on the recent survey, was the new proximity. You cannot have a short-term rental next door to one another or across the street. That has affected a few folks that I know personally, but also heard many others in several different ways. One way is that it has devalued the resale market for homes that are right next to a short-term rental. Because if there is a short-term rental next to it, an investor that may say, I'll wait for a year on the waiting list to get my short-term rental, that no longer is applicable to that property because there's one next door. So they have to wait for that one to go away. So that property there is not as advantageous for someone to buy because it limits the ability and what that property could be used for. Okay, so just by making that rule, folks that live on either side or across the street from a short-term rental have seen that they have a much more difficult time in selling their property when it comes time to sell. I know this because I know some of the realtors, not just Bart and Deb up on the mountain, but other realtors that also sell up there that also manage some properties. So I know that this directly affects that for sure. It also kind of goes against, because in a sense, it's a zoning kind of a rule, if you will, or a zoning kind of a regulation, which it's almost anti-zoning because zoning really is meant that you don't have a sexually oriented business next to an elementary school, or you don't have a business in the middle of a neighborhood, or you don't have, and it's kind of compartmentalizing what you can do. And what this did is actually the opposite. What it did was it said, no, you're not going to have them next door and across the street and clustered where we're not bothering residents. We're actually making them be in the middle of residents, which is kind of an interesting concept. So it's also affected folks, for example, Corey Dodd, and I think he presented to the board a few months ago in that prior to even the initial draft or the thought of Ordinance 19, he started to build his A-frame. And quite frankly, it would be one of the most premier short-term rentals in the county. It's an incredible 3-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath A-frame. He built it as his retirement. He put in just under $1 million into it. Had been speaking with Fred Rollenhagen back in the day, 2.5 years ago when he started the process, to say, this is going to be a short-term rental and this is my thing. And this is well, you have to get your CO first and everything. Well, in the process of building it, Ordinance 19 came out and it pulled the carpet out from underneath him. And so now he has a house that he built all this money on and he can't short-term rent it strictly because of this issue, because actually he owns the A-frame across the street. And I know that because I manage it, I take care of that property and everything else. And I was going to manage and take care of the large A-frame for him as well. But he did I believe he requested a variance. It came before the board. And the answer that came back was that there was nothing in the emails back in the day with Fred Rollenhagen that guaranteed that he would get a permit. Well, of course, there's no guarantee because Ordinance 19 didn't exist back then. So it has definitely affected folks, and I'm not really sure that I understand the purpose behind that, but I think it's something that I think should be looked at again from the board.
Okay, go ahead. I will tell you one of the purposes.
One of the other items that is of great concern is the elimination of propane barbecue grills. Everybody that's going on vacation, especially in the summertime, it's all about cooking out. They want to cook out, they want to have barbecue. We took those away. And what I found now, since that has been gone over the last year and plus, is we find and pull and dispose of more charcoal grills now than you can imagine, because they get to the house and there's no grill there. And so they run to Walmart and they buy a cheap charcoal grill. And now what we've created is a much more unsafe condition up on the mountain. And there's literally no way to monitor this. There's just no way to be able to see if somebody is, what they're using as far as a grill. So I think that I've noticed that, and in my sincere opinion, is it has definitely created a more dangerous situation. I think that what we could do instead would be to make more specific provisions for propane grills, gas grills, that maybe they're affixed, that maybe they are sitting on top of a non-combustible surface, that maybe but there are other ways that I think we could make grilling safe on the mountain versus just eliminating those. We have another problem when it comes to the electric grills. Now, the electric ones, they actually are prone to catching fire because they have a very shallow pan in them. But they also some of them have self-cleaning modes on them. But in order to activate the self-cleaning, just like your normal oven, it gets outrageously hot. And so you have to pull them away from any kind of a combustible surface to do it. Although those are legal, they also pose a danger. So I think looking back, looking at the issue of the propane grills and figuring out a way that we can make propane grills safe, again, by affixing them, putting them on non-combustible surfaces, whatever that might be, because at the end of the day, the guests, and it's so difficult to control the guests. You can't put cameras in areas. You can't do this. You can't watch them. You can't police them. They're going to do what they're going to do, regardless of what you put in your books and regardless of what you say in advance, right? The insurance regulation about insuring the guests' personal belongings. As everyone knows in this room, I'm sure, that was one of the most difficult insurances to find. And we have found there's 3 that I'm only aware of that we all have to use. So we've had to drop our other insurances in order to run with these insurances because these are the only companies that will put that in. And I have reached around the country when this was a big issue 6 months ago, when all the renewals were coming up and everyone was getting stuck. Believe me, my phone went crazy and everyone's saying, what can we do? Well, we found 3. But what it's really done is it's caused our costs to go up because those insurance companies really don't have as good of protection as, for example, the one that I had before. So in order for me to have that protection, so now I basically kind of have an extra insurance policy. So now I'm doubly insured. So it's costing me more because I also have my own short-term rental. And the fees alone of the increase that we have in our insurances, the increase that we went from $250 to $500 a year for our permits back in the day. Now that they're a license, we're at $1,700. And the defensible space and what we've had to do to comply, especially the defensible space, is incredibly expensive. I do defensible space remediation. I do this for a lot of my clients up on the mountain, and it's an expensive endeavor. And what we're hearing over and over is that just prepare to do more mitigation every single year. Well, when we're being told that that's actually what's going to happen so that we're continuing to mitigate, is our annual expenses are going through the roof as short-term rental owners. It's going through the roof. We have added fees for our insurance, like I said, for just our licenses have tripled, more than tripled in the last year. Just to comply with our inspections and new fire mitigations is costing $1,200 to $3,000 a year more because every year it's more trees coming down, more underbrush, more this, more that. And it's getting to a point where it's really becoming difficult and unsustainable. And I've known several folks that have given up their license, that they're done. That's why we have so many properties up on the mountain right now for sale, is that it's just getting exorbitant. And I know one of the comments you made was that you really want to make short-term rentals sustainable. It is. It definitely is a good base for supporting the community. There's no question. But we also have to be very careful not to hit above that ceiling that everyone can sustain, because we're going to start losing because we just can't. The cost is getting so exorbitant, especially, for example, the condominiums. They can't handle. I mean, the nightly rental rates up there are $100, let's just say on average. And so you just, when you're hitting them with $1,500 or $1,700 a year now to have a license, when they have such a small nightly rate, and their insurance is going up and everything is going up. It's just becoming almost unsustainable for them. So some of the lower end properties are definitely they're getting seriously negatively affected by it. So that's pretty much what I have.
Thank you. Thank you. I know that, well, with
One more thing,
respect,
just if you don't mind, I just want to explain just a little bit more about me and my business really quick. I kind of gave you the scope of our business, but I employ 5 local residents, 3 of which are on the mountain and the other 2 are in Clear Creek County. So I also employ a lot of folks for being a small business, a small localized business.
Thank you. I was just going to say, with respect to proximity, I was getting a lot of feedback from potential constituents when I was campaigning, and then once I came into office, even more about problems of having a community, a nice neighborhood road where suddenly houses would get sold and they become short-term rentals. And her nice little community, suddenly on one friend's road, there were 6 houses and 5 of which became short-term rentals, which means there goes community, there goes, neighbors, support for the local schools. And that was a huge concern with short-term rentals. And I actually understood St. Mary's to be much more accommodating to short-term rentals, and that the neighbors up there weren't objecting to them as much as in other places. But I hadn't heard that there were people giving up their short-term rentals because of some of the burden of them. The problem with the propane is that, as you said, it's very hard to police your renters. And in Evergreen, we've had people throwing logs onto propane fireplaces, and that causes a much greater problem than just prohibiting them altogether. We do enforce when we get notified by neighbors, but then again, there's the problem of if it's all short-term renters, nobody's going to notify the county if somebody's buying an illegal charcoal grill and hauling it up to their short-term rental. So that's an issue. But anyway, and we did discuss the insurance regulation issue the other day. I'm not sure that we had a resolution of it yet, but we do understand that caused a problem.
Yeah, we got board direction to drop that requirement, so we'll be communicating out that soon. That insurance requirement, the additional insurance for the property, insuring other people's property.
When we talk
Laws.
about communities too, St. Mary's is different than the DLD area, which is different than Georgetown. In Breckenridge, they did do that by zones, and then there was a lawsuit, right? So what the St. Mary's would like to be a higher concentrate, some people in St. Mary's, not all of them, but a higher concentrate of the STRs. If we were to do that, we would get sued. So this lawsuit that happened in Breckenridge, and it's an appeal, I think everybody's waiting to see what happens with that before anybody makes any more moves, because there's no point in doing something and you're just going to turn around and get sued. That's going to cost us a ton of money.
Well, it's interesting because I do know that some jurisdictions in other states, Key West, for example, they definitely do, their short-term rentals all of their rentals are actually zoned. Duval Street is their main tourist area.
Right.
So they have within 3 blocks, I think, is transient. They allow transient licenses. And then for the next 6 blocks, then it's 30 days and under. And then after that, then it has to be greater than 36 months or whatever. And so they do based on proximity or based on location, physical location. And that's how they've done it. I don't know if it's a state difference or if what could be difference. I don't know why Breckenridge would have been sued or whatever else. But when we were originally talking years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, when we were talking about the whole modification of short-term rentals and everything, it was always brought up and that St. Mary's could be looked at as a kind of special district, if you will, because there's a reason that there's a cluster of them up there. It's because that's where the tourists want to go. They're looking for that out of mountain. And I can tell you of all of the guests that I encounter, over 18 properties that I clean, the ones that I manage, 50% of the folks that come up to the mountain are local to Colorado. And the majority of that is actually local to the Denver area. They're looking for a mountain experience. They don't want to drive to Georgetown and stay in a town. They don't want to go and stay in Idaho Springs. They want to go up into a mountain. And so that's why we have that largest cluster up there. And if we're looking at becoming a tourist economy, we really need to look at St. Mary's Glacier as becoming that, because it's where, that's why it's as successful as it is. It's where people want to go.
Jody's spot on. It's Summit County. And I don't know, I think it's an equal protection challenge. Questions about who gets sued for what and when really is just like who has the most motivated person that wants to sue. Summit County happens to be the epicenter of short-term rental land. We made a commitment that we would look at that as soon as that lawsuit was cleared up. Summit County won, it's now being challenged.
Clarify, it went to federal court, it was dismissed, it got refiled in state court.
Refiled in state court. Okay, so I knew there was another. So I think we need the clarity. Maybe the courts would even tell us, here are the criteria you need to look at so that we can have a nice objective analysis of it. My sense is that the community is fairly split, but we haven't had a lot of really in-depth public engagement for years. But I think it's a question that we should continue to wrestle with, which is whether St. Mary's should be treated differently.
I will say from staff's perspective, as soon as this is cleared up in court, we will be coming to the board for a discussion about this.
Yeah, we need to investigate that. One thing you said that I really want to acknowledge, a policy principle, and it's hard to make every scenario work every time, but an important policy principle is not to affect transactions in flight. So when somebody bought a property and started building a house because they thought they had an opportunity that then went away, I think that's something we should take seriously. So I just want to acknowledge that.
I would like you to look back into that specific instance. It's 96 Nebraska, Corey Dot. That's one that needs to be looked at again.
The reason I'm mentioning this in such detail is we are going to be updating the ordinance. And I really take your comments seriously, and we do. I want to ask you to continue to keep offering them. Because like this insurance requirement, the defensible space, I want to understand better from you, and not right now in our last 3 minutes, but how creating defensible space is an annual expense. And so let's talk about that more offline. I know we've had some great conversations in the past. And then on this fire requirement, just so you can go back and you can watch the meeting if you want. We were trying to find a way to write out the distinction between a propane fireplace and a propane grill. And in a moment, a commissioner said, you know what? Let's just not do any of them. And another commissioner said, yeah, that's the way it works. I think that conversation can come back with an opportunity to come up with a more precise definition. People change their hearing that people are going and buying charcoal grills, which are far more dangerous to get around this, is something that I think is worth hearing. So basically, I just want to say the short version is, I hear you, keep the comments coming. We're going to update the ordinance.
Thank you.
There was no, that's it.
Okay. Jody, did you have anything?
I was just gonna add that we were campaigning when all this was going down, and we watched a lot of these meetings, and I know that there was a lot of thought put into this ordinance and these codes and everything, that the whole idea is just to protect the community. I don't think anybody wanted to like take anybody's rights away just because, and nothing is perfect. So like I said earlier, that things can be worked out and improved. And I think over time, that's what this board has been dedicated in doing, and being very transparent, and, all the way from Charlie's Place to the childcare to the STRs, that, we take people's comments, we take them seriously, we look into stuff. Not everything we can work out. Colton probably gets really frustrated. We bring a lot of things to him and then he takes that to his staff and then they've got to go, find the details and find out, can we do this? Can we change this? Can we make it easier? Can the process be easier? So I also want to commend like George, I hear a lot of people say, well, George has done this and this and this. I watched a lot of these meetings and it's in his heart, it's in all of our hearts to protect this community and make it better. So people could come up here and visit and be proud of, who we are. So, but it is a lot of work for our staff to do a lot of this.
Thank you. Well, I think we should probably let you go, but thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate your engagement because we need it. We are adjourned.